I'm here with Craig MacDonald, who's the president of the Ottawa chapter of the Federal Superannuants National Association. Craig, how did you get involved with the FSNA?
Well, I think, in fact, Brian, it may have been you who actually mentioned, and this is typical of so many FSNA members, who, just at the point of I retired, I think you mentioned to me you should really join this association, particularly because they had a really good travel health insurance plan, which is very true. And many members hear about FSNA on the point of retirement because of that particular travel health plan that they have. What, of course, then becomes interesting is then you discover everything the association does, and you wonder why you'd never heard of it before. Now, I guess what you quickly learn is it's been around for 43 years. It's open to retirees from the public service, from the Canadian Forces and the military, from the RCMP, and from federal judges, i.e. anybody in receipt of a federal pension or superannuation, hence the awkward name. I guess over the years, the highlights have included going way back, fighting for indexation of federal pensions, and over the years, lobbying against efforts to de-index pensions, which are periodically there. More particularly, arguing for the dental plan to be added to the pension health plan. It did not used to be the case that when you retired, you continued your dental plan that you had as a government employee. So getting that added about 4 years ago was a major plus for the association. And then the association sits on, it formally represents federal government retirees on a number of government bodies. It sits on the pension advisory committees of the public service, of the Canadian Forces. It has close links with the similar representative in the RCMP pension committee. And most particularly, it sits on the governance body of the public service healthcare plan. And that's a really important role. People will have been aware that that plan was just renewed for another 5 years. And FSNA spent a lot of time analyzing. I mean, I think everybody realized our fees would be going up because they'd been frozen for 5 years. So the big issue is, okay, we're probably going to face some increase in fees for continued health plan coverage. What are the priorities in terms of additional coverage and service that we wanted? So they had to canvass, obviously, members very carefully in terms of what are priorities for seniors and pensioners in terms of healthcare coverage. And then I think they succeeded in after about a year and a half of negotiations, in a new 5-year extension of our healthcare plan, which I think most people consider to be pretty first-rate coverage.
I think we're tremendously fortunate, sure.
Yeah.
With that plan.
Yeah.
Craig, I was with you recently, and somebody said, look, you've been president of the Ottawa chapter for 3 years. What have you achieved during that time?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, particularly because I think the Ottawa branch, I mean, we have 145,000 members across the country, which is about 1/3 of eligible retirees. The Ottawa branch is about 25,000 now, so it's by far the biggest, as you would expect. It's also, I would argue, the most intellectually feisty, because our board is made up of very often fairly senior retired public servants. They've got a lot of intellectual energy. They've been used to policy development, strategy development. And so I guess, in fact, one of our roles is we kind of push the national level fairly aggressively in terms of things we think the association itself should be doing nationally. So managing that relationship between a very feisty branch and the national executive and the national level is a very tricky one. And my predecessors, I know, had to spend a lot of time in making sure that that relationship was constructive. I guess in the last 3 years, priorities have been, first of all, pushing hard. We don't think, as a branch, that FSNA is very visible, that it's very well known. And so we've been pushing very hard for expanding associate members, which are people who haven't yet retired, but who are maybe 5 to 7 years from retirement. They can become a member for $10 a year, as opposed to a regular membership of $30 a year or $42 for a couple. And you get all the benefits of membership as an associate member, with the exception you can't vote in formal processes, but you get the information materials. You have access to all the discount programs that the association, including this travel health plan. And our main interest is obviously to make sure they're aware of the association and what its policy interests are, so that when they do retire, they continue to support it. So big push there, and basically pushing hard to develop a marketing and recruitment strategy at the national level. And we actually in the branch developed a lot of the informational products and had the national president write to all the deputy ministers. To our surprise, and got very positive responses. So we've been given a lot of access to pre-retirement seminars, to links on websites. In some departments, we've even been able to distribute literature with paychecks and pay stubs. Our problem is that's been almost too successful. We just don't have the person power to take advantage of all the opportunities we've been given. So that's a big one, was getting ourselves better known and pushing the national level to market the association better.
Yeah, no, you've been quite active. I was impressed when you told me that just before the last elections, the FSNA was quite active in terms of approaching MPs, trying to find out where people stood in terms of the interests of the FSNA.
Yeah. The national president wrote to all the political leaders and basically attached material. I mean, we have about 57 policy issues, which ideally one would like to see movement on. Some very technical.
Yeah.
But he wrote to all the political leaders on sort of the 4 or 5 key issues that were of particular importance to federal pensioners. And then that was paralleled by, I, like other branch presidents, wrote to all the candidates in the local election, re-emphasized who we were, how many voters we could bring to the constituency, and again encouraged our own members to go to constituency meetings and made sure they had material about the issues that we would hope that they would lend their support and advocacy of. And that continues to be an issue. Obviously in Ottawa we have 3 MPs who are in cabinet, so I'm particularly alert to looking for meaningful opportunities to be in contact with them, but equally doing so in tandem with our national president, who clearly is the association's main spokesman with the government, particularly Treasury Board head.
Oh, sure.
Who also from Ottawa.
From the Ottawa area.
Yeah.
Craig,